Hello and welcome. Happy Halloween. This is Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. And tonight we're doing spooky stories. These aren't just any spooky stories, these are experiential, which means I have experienced them, or my clients may have experienced them, or another practitioner. But to my knowledge, these are true stories. Names have been changed to protect the haunted. I am your host, GeralynStJoseph, and I am a psychic intuitive. This was my first book, Paranormal Activity. What are you dealing with? And in this book, it's pretty thin, easy to read. I talk about the different types of entities you may come across if you are ghost hunting or, just in daily life. And I ask questions so that you get an idea of what you're dealing with. So every night at 3 a.m., you wake up to the sound of music, followed by the sounds of a heated argument. The first half dozen times you flew out of bed, checked the house, yelled at the neighbors, only to realize that the sound was coming from where? You might be able to see it or just catch glimpses with the corner of your eye. What are you dealing with? This is what I would call an emotional imprint. So an emotional imprint is what happens when you have something that occurs that is very high in emotional content. And it could be positive or negative. And then it kind of gets stuck. And it'll appear, it could be the same time every night. It could be the same time every year. But it's something that is not conscious. So it's not something that you could communicate with. It's just something that is recurring, almost like something put on repeat. Another way that this occurs is if something recurs in an area repeatedly. So it could be something major like a murder or something that was very life-changing for many of the occupants at the time, or it could be something that recurs. So like in a church, you might get the joy of a wedding. In a cemetery, you might feel the sadness of all the people who come there in order to mourn their dead. You may be buying a house where the person lost the house, like you're buying it because it was in foreclosure. And then when you go in the house, you're like, certain rooms just feel funny, or maybe it's the whole house feels funny. And a lot of times that is because there's an emotional imprint there. And that imprint is whatever the top emotion was that occurred there. So you might go into a place like that and not even realize what you're picking up on. And then all of a sudden, you and your spouse or you and your friend are fighting. And you don't know why. You're angry. You don't know why. You walk out of the house, you feel fine. The way to not allow this to stick is that when you feel the shift in your energy, is to take note of it and don't talk yourself into why you're feeling angry. Because believe me, we can all come up with excuses as to why we're feeling angry or sad or anxious or any of the above. We need to not hold on to the emotion and give it a story. That way it doesn't stick with us for too long. But let's move on. You keep feeling like someone is watching you. You see something out of the corner of your eye. Suddenly you feel sad, but there's no reason for it. It seems that the lights keep flickering whenever you enter the room, but you check them all. There's no short. They're all in the way they need to be in. They aren't loose. There's no electrical problem, and yet they continue to flicker. What are you dealing with? What do you think you're dealing with? I'll give you a hint. It's made of electrical energy, which is why it makes the lights flicker. Although many things can do that. But you may feel what this entity is feeling because you are similar to it. What are you dealing with? It's a ghost. What is a ghost? A ghost is a person without a physical body. So there's someone who has died, like their physical body has passed, but they have not crossed over. They have not rejoined with the all that is. They haven't gone to heaven, however you want to put it. They're trapped on this plane of existence. We could have a whole thing about why that happens, how that happens, and how to help them. But the thing is, you're dealing with a ghost. Does a ghost always have unfinished business? I hate to tell you, but no. A lot of times ghosts are stuck for so long that whatever the business was that they thought was unfinished that they needed to do, there is no doing at that point. Because as a ghost, they can only see what's in front of them, just like you can. They don't see everything. They may have been waiting for a loved one to pass to go with them, but maybe the loved one didn't perish in the same area where the ghost is hanging out. So it's very difficult for them. I recently watched the movie We Have a Ghost, which is hilarious. It was really good. I think it's on Netflix. I'm not sure. But that movie was pretty solid as to what may make a ghost hang out, how they react in the environment, like it getting cold and things like that. So that movie was pretty spot on for the most part, and it also had a good story and was really funny. So um a ghost will tend to gravitate to someone who they feel can feel them. So whether you're aware that you're sensitive or not, a ghost may want to hang out with you because like somehow there's a connection or a communication. If you can talk to them and hear them or see them and figure out whatever it is they're trying to say, then it's easier to be around them. When I was a child, there was a ghost in our house. I called him the sighing ghost because it was a little boy. I discovered much later it was a little boy who had died. Apparently, there was a fire and he had hidden in the closet. So he was upset and he just felt like he was always waiting. So you would hear, and I would hear him walk back and forth between the front of the house and my bedroom. And he would kind of stand over me and make this sound when I was in bed. I finally, once I embraced who I am and what I'm here to do, I had the opportunity to cross him over. Now, it was a little heart-wrenching for me because it was right at the beginning. I didn't know as much as I know now. And I felt like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Does he want to go? Is there a reason why he's here? And asking all those questions that a lot of people ask. The answer to those questions is whether they want to go or not, they need to go. Number one. Number two, it's like being in prison, except you're in solitary confinement for centuries. I would never wish that on anyone for any reason. So I'm not going to leave him trapped. And it's not about me missing him because I was used to his presence all the time with me. It's about allowing him the freedom to evolve and move on. So I did that. But right before I did that, when I was discussing it with him, I was out of the house one day. My bedroom was down the basement, and my sister was on the first floor with her child and everything. And they hear this sobbing, crying coming from downstairs. So she thinks I'm down there, but I'm actually at work. And she runs downstairs, and she said the sound was coming from the center of my bed, just this hysterical crying and sobbing. Scared the bejesus out of her. She ran back upstairs. She also got to see him once, again, coming up from downstairs, fully formed apparition. She thought it was me. She says my name. He turns around and looks at her. They both go, ah, and he runs back downstairs. She doesn't see him again. I crossed him over shortly after that. Sometimes you will be able to see them. Sometimes you could hear them. Most people, you can feel them, but not necessarily communicate directly with them. Ghosts are probably one of the most prolific things that I've found so far as type of entity that you see that's around. What is the difference between a ghost and a spirit, or someone who's not crossed over and someone who is crossed over? Once you cross over, then you could do a lot of things that you can't do as a spirit, as a ghost. So a ghost is stuck on this plane of existence. Not a lot they can do that you can't do, besides, be invisible around people, walk through walls, things like that. But once they're a spirit, once they've crossed over and they're part of the all that is again, or they're in heaven, or however you want to look at it, then they can look down on you and see what you're doing. They can multi-locate. So they can be looking over you as well as other members of the family. They can see a little bit into the future. They can see the possibilities coming up. They can affect things better. They have a better idea of their own place in existence and your place in existence. So until a spirit, a ghost, is crossed over, they really just have the same vision that you do, sometimes less, because they can't really affect things. It takes a lot of energy on their part to be able to affect things. It takes a lot of they need to try, they need to be focused on it. And the more spiritually based they were as humans when they're in body, the more they're going to be able to do when they're out of body, because they've already learned how to use their energetic body for different things. So I don't know what your faith system is, but the stories that I tell and the things that I'm saying are from my own experience and dealing with probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different ghosts over the decades that I've been doing this work. Here's a good one that most of you are used to. Your child keeps telling you family history they should not know. You ask them who told them, and they tell you about meeting their grandparent. They describe in vivid detail what they look like and what they said, but their grandparent is dead. There's no way this could happen, right? What are you dealing with? Again, this could be a ghost, or it could be a spirit. So when a grandparent or a dead loved one comes back to speak to you, if it is someone who is part of the all that is, or part of God, or somebody who's crossed over, they're going to feel different than someone who has not crossed over. Generally, things make them heavy enough to be stuck here. And if they're heavy enough to be stuck here, there's usually an intense emotion that comes with their presence. And it's not necessarily a loving emotion. Oftentimes it's sorrow, anger, frustration. Fear is the biggest. So a spirit will also kind of announce their presence with something. My grandmother used to wear Gina Tay after bath splash. If I smell that anywhere, I know that she's close, that she's making a point and I need to listen or pay attention to something. Different spirits will have different signs. It depends on you, which one that you either pick up on or which one you may want to have as a symbol between the two of you. You may even decide on this before someone passes. So I'm going to tell you the story of the first ghost I had a crossover and how that happened. When I was much, much younger, a few decades ago, a friend of mine was in college, and the college had purchased these homes to use as student housing. And it was big old home, it was beautiful. And when my friend moved in there, she had a roommate, and they had all kinds of weird things happening. Meanwhile, I don't go to the same college, but I'm reading Anne Rice, Tale of the Body Thief. Excellent book, by the way. A lot of what Anne Rice writes about, different things that you could do, I have found to be pretty accurate, especially when it comes to dealing with interlopers, we're going to say. So she calls me and she's a little upset. She's like, I want you to come to the house and I want you to check this out because I don't know what's going on. And my roommate is terrified. And she said she's going to leave because she's afraid of what's going on. And I'm like, well, what's happening? Things like when they're watching television together, all of a sudden the television will go to snow. I don't know if the kids today know what that is like, but that is when you're not getting a channel the way you're supposed to. You've seen it if you've watched Poltergeist or any of those kind of movies, and it just gets all scattered, like the signal gets scattered. Another thing that would happen is the television would change channels while they were watching it. Nobody had the remote control. It would just change channels. And at first they thought it might have been some of the other girls who were like in the room across the hall. Maybe they had the same TV, that kind of thing. No, it was just changing channels of its own accord. Another thing that would happen is they would go to bed, everything would be off, all the lights would be off, and then suddenly a light would turn on. And they didn't turn on the light. There's nobody there to turn on the light, or the TV would turn on. When the one girl was there by herself, the window would shut by itself. So, of course, the first thing I try to do and we try to figure out is we try to debunk everything and like, okay, how could this happen in the natural course of things? I could find some reasons for some of the stuff that was going on, but there was nothing, it was too far of a reach to try and explain everything and say, well, all this multitude of different things are happening, and that's why this is happening. So I said, all right, I'll come when I get a chance. I asked Spirit to help me with this, please show me what's happening so that I can help out. Mind you, this was kind of the beginning of my spiritual journey. I was born with my gifts, but over time, like different things popped up and happened that made me utilize different things. So although I was sensitive, I never until that point had really done much with it. So I asked the question that night. I had a dream. I dreamt about a girl named Mary who had hung herself in the room that my friends were in. And she had two people. She was very upset because her friend was supposed to come. Like she had it timed so that it was more of a, like she was asking for help and trying to get attention than it was a bona fide attempt. And that friend did not show up. And the other thing that was in the dream was that her boyfriend was so angry at her. He was just really mean. And he said to me, he's like, well, at least you're lucky you don't have to put up with Mary and blah, 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 like all this stuff. So I was like, whoa. So I figured out why she did what she did and what the object was, and that the actual death was as an accident. So I go and I see my friend. I'm like, all right, let's see what's happening here. Again, we checked to make sure it wasn't the remote control. It wasn't that a truck was going by. It wasn't that there was faulty wiring. We checked everything. Everything was fine. And then we sat down. I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if we can contact Mary. I think her name is Mary. And immediately we got results. So I saw Mary as this pink, bright light that would like zip around the room. And when she would zip around the room, she'd like turn the light on. She would mess up the television picture. She would, just do different things around, make the phone ring, stuff like that. It's a big reason why I don't like the newer phones. The old phones are really great for spirit communication. But anyway, we did all that. And I felt all of a sudden I was overwhelmed. Like I just wanted to burst into tears. I was so sad. I was like, oh my God, I just want to cry. And instead of starting to cry, my natural reaction was to say, I'm not going to cry. Just like that. And like that, the feeling was gone. And then the feeling went over to my friend. And she said, oh my God, I feel so sad. I just want to cry. And I said, then cry. Bad advice. Bad advice. That opened her up to allow Mary to enter her. The ordeal took 3 days. I don't even know if I want to call it an ordeal, but it was a great discovery. There was another psychic that I had been doing advertising and stuff for, which is my backgrounds in marketing and stuff like that. I had been helping her. So I decided to ask her questions as to how to deal with this situation. Well, she gave me a lot of advice that wasn't quite right. And as she's telling me these things, like I felt that it wasn't right. So what we did was we sat down and did meditation to answer our questions. Now, it was my friend, her roommate, and then I think there were two girls across the way, and then my friend's boyfriend. I think there was another boy that came in and out during this period of time. So the interesting thing was when Mary was in my friend, her eyes changed color a little bit. It was different. She held herself differently, and she felt very scrunched in because Mary was a good 3 or 4 inches bigger than my friend was when Mary was in incarnate. So while this is happening, I'm asking this psychic, like, all right, what do I do with this? And she's telling me, well, if they did it to themselves, they're in purgatory for 900 whatever years, and that you could only cross over spirits on Christmas Eve using this ritual and blah, 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 all this stuff, all wrong. Commonly held beliefs. I mean, I don't necessarily blame her for not knowing the truth. However, if I had listened to her, poor Mary would have been stuck, because she had been there. It was like 60 or 70 years, we found out. And what happened was she was in that space, but the ghost was kind of asleep. Like, I guess they go dormant unless there's somebody there that like agitates, like if you're getting work done in a house, or if you're playing with the Ouija board, or if you're doing something like that. So once the college took over, like I guess a bunch of girls were playing with a Ouija board or whatever, and it woke her up. So some of the interesting things that happened over that 3-day period, one of the things I wanted to know is, are you really stuck here? Can you really not leave the house? Or is it that you don't want to leave the house? Do you believe that you can't leave the house? Like, why are you here? Instead of like roaming around trying to find whoever it was that you wanted to talk to and whatnot. So we discovered that she was not actually stuck in the house. They are not generally bound in a space unless someone binds them there. Whole nother story. But she was not bound there. So we could take her with us when we did things, and we did that. We got her out of the house, and she was like, whoa, like things have changed so much all around me. Like, think about all the changes that have happened in the last 60 years. Now imagine that your development stopped 60 years ago, or it stopped right now, and 60 years in the future, what is going to change more? Is the outside world going to change more, or that one little room that you're in? So a lot of times they will confine themselves to a space because that is where they're comfortable. That's also one of the reasons why when you get work done, it disturbs them, and why they will act out at that point, because they're like, ah. So that happened. I also figured out that two souls cannot exist in the same body for an extended length of time, because our bodies are created to house one soul. Like our whole energy system is based on that. Our physical system is based on that. Our soul is energy, and it's consciousness, and it animates us. So if you have two competing consciousness inside the same body, it depletes the actual physical energy that's in that body. It'll destroy the cells. You'll find things like heart attacks, strokes, things like that will happen if there's two souls in one body for too long. So when I realized that my friend's body was starting to decline, I'm like, all right, we need to do something with this. What do we need to do? So Mary was afraid that she was going to go to HE double hockey sticks, because being a Christian, she felt that because of what had happened, that, that was the only place for her to go. So I did not believe that she was going to go there. I wasn't sure, but I was like, let's do some investigation here. So the group of us got together, we did a meditation, and in the meditation, Mary saw her idea of what Jesus looked like, and then getting really old and becoming like God, what God looked like, welcoming her towards him. And it freaked her out, but I was like, well, this is showing you that you don't have to worry about HE double hockey sticks because you made a mistake, that God is forgiving you, because the rest of us didn't see it. The rest of us got nothing. I could feel the energy, but the message wasn't for me. So I didn't get the message. Mary got the message, and her host could see it also. Then I was away because I had to work for a little bit. And while that was happening, I had taught them how to bring energy into their body by doing the white light meditation. You pull energy, and it helps you to stay more balanced and everything. And it helps you to stay clear. It's powerful meditation. So they're doing this meditation with the girl who lives across the hall, who happened to look an awful lot like, might have been the reincarnation of, I'm not sure, the friend who was supposed to stop Mary from becoming deceased. So what Mary did was, instead of pulling from the white light, which is pure unconditional love, it's from source, it's infinite, she pulled from the other girl. And she pulled all the life force, or a lot of the life force, out of that girl, to the point where at the end of the meditation, the girl she could barely make it to her bed, collapsed into her bed, and slept for 16 hours. Not good. So I found out about this many, many hours later, but like as the girl was waking up, and I was really angry because this had happened. And it was interesting because as I was going back to the house, Mary could feel me and was just like freaking out that, I was coming back to the house. One thing that happened before that, when we were all discovering things and asking questions also, is that, well, two things that happened. One is that girl who she drained, before she drained her, as we were all talking, the girl says to Mary, she goes, well, you know, you could stay and, do whatever it is you do as long as you don't hurt anybody. And she's like, do as I do, and got right in her face and said, I live here. And all of us were like, whoa. So that goes to show you that someone who is a ghost a lot of times does not have consciousness of the fact that they do not have their body, that they're not really here, and that they are deceased. So just a pointer. That movie, the movie Ghost, but not Ghost, Sixth Sense, the movie Sixth Sense, excellent depiction of it. Excellent. So she gets in this girl's face, I live here. Terrifying. Later on, we're all together and we're all talking. We're in the other bedroom. So my friend's bedroom's here and the other bedroom's here. We're all over here talking for whatever reason. I forget what we were doing. And then the phone starts ringing over here. And Mary, in my friend's body, nearly jumps into my arms. I mean, we're about the same size and she's like jumping at me like, no, don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone. Like terrified of the phone. And we're like, what are you doing? And then the host takes over the body and is like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to answer the phone, and goes and answers the phone against Mary's wishes, picks up the phone and hears a demonic voice saying, I'll kill you. Well, at that point, Mary takes back over, throws the phone up in the air, screams, and literally jumps on top of me. And I'm like, what is going on? What's the matter? And they said it was a demon. A demon said that they were coming to kill me. Da, 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 da. And I was like, okay, don't know if I believe in that, but oh, right. And so we're all saying, well, it's probably the boys, playing a joke. It's nothing major, but that is something that does come up later. So then she drains the girl. Then I'm coming. I'm furious. And I'm like, you got to go. We're going to have to cross over now. No more time for talking. No more time to try and figure out what's going on. Some of the things that were interesting about Mary were that when she was in the physical form, the first thing she wanted to do was eat and have sex. Like, I want to feel physical again. So we did not let her have sex because that wouldn't have been fair to the host and her boyfriend, who didn't know what was going on. Who would not have consented if he knew it wasn't his girlfriend in there. But eating, man, we got her chocolate and different things and took her out. And she was, oh my God, you would think she was in heaven getting to eat food, especially her favorite foods. So I get there, we do a meditation, and I ask for assistance in helping her to cross. Now, my main guardian guide is Gabriel. Gabriel is the angel of courage, and he is one of the angels of death. So generally speaking, when someone is crossing over, Gabriel will take them and assist them in crossing over, along with a Michael. Michael is very protective, and Gabriel gives them the courage. So it's like you have these people who are, or angels who are assisting you. They're walking you over the threshold. So the other two that are there are Uriel and Raphael. And each of them has a different thing that they do. Uriel is the gates. Like, Uriel is the light. Uriel opens up the staircase and allows you entrance and illuminates everything so that you can see where you're going. Raphael helps to heal any wounds that might be left over from this particular lifetime as well as he can while you're in process. So, we got to get Mary moving. Well, Mary does not want to go. So it took a little bit of finagling to get her to go. And ultimately what happened was we opened the stairs of gold. We opened the staircase. Gabe and Michael were there. along with Raphael, trying to assist her and calm her. They had to go find her because she took off. And what happened was she was very attached to Mother Mary, and Mary made an appearance and welcomed her into heaven, like gave her that solace, and she went. Amazing. So after that happened, the one girl did leave school. She's like, I am not staying here. There were a lot of things that happened along the way because of the type of school it was. But after everything was said and done, Mary came back and thanked us and specifically offered to be a guardian or a guide for the host, which was really amazing. And she warned us that the voice that was on the phone was actually, it was a real warning, and that we needed to be aware of that, and we needed to prepare because we were being stalked, me in particular, and that we needed to know how to defend ourselves. Lots of stories past that. But if you have any questions, you let me know. So the difference between a spirit and a ghost is a human without a body. They can do as much as you can. The only thing they can do other than that is they're invisible and they can walk through walls and live forever, so to speak. A spirit is a ghost that has crossed over and has rejoined with God, with the all that is, and they are they can multi-locate. They see more the possibilities of the future. Remember, we do have our own decisions to make and our own free will, and that is what propels us forward. That is what makes the difference. So when you go to get a reading from someone, they're looking at the possibilities. Now, some people, when they're doing readings, they will say, this is going to happen. What I have found over the years is that there are some things that you cannot avoid. How you get there is up to you, though. Most things, you have a choice. Are you going to get married or are you not going to get married? Are you going to stay angry? Or are you not going to stay angry? Are you going to heal? Or are you going to stay wounded? Where are you going to be? Well, that's your choice. So if you're interested in finding out more, this is what my book cover looks like. It is on Amazon. It is both as a book and an ebook. I'm not going to go through the rest of those right now. What I would like to do is let's pull a card from the Halloween Oracle. My friend Terry, who is mistress of all cards because she's got like a bazillion different decks, has lent me this deck for the night. So we can have a little bit of fun with it. So let's see. Let's pick one. Ghost. What's the first one we get? We get ghost. That's hilarious. I'm sorry. So ghost is about having regrets. So one of the things when you see this video, for whatever reason, keep in mind that all people have sometimes things that they second guess, or that once you're past it, you think maybe I should have made a different decision. But the reason for that, the reason for guilt, the reason for regret is so that we make a different decision in the future. It's not supposed to weigh you down and hold you back. So you need to release yourself from regret. You need to learn from it and move on. There's nothing you could do about the past. You can only make different decisions in the future. And that's what regret is about. And many ghosts become ghosts because of regret, because they don't know how to let go of things, and it weighs down their spirit, so they have a problem moving on. Winter, the sacredness of pausing. One thing that we often fail to do in our current world is that everything is fast, fast, fast. It's got to be right now, right now, right now. And the truth of the matter is that's not a good way to do things. It's good to reflect. It's good to look back. It's good to look forward. But it's even better to be here in the now. Take a breath. Pause. Most things will still be there in the morning, tomorrow, next week. Some things need to be taken care of right away. Most things you have a little bit of time. Utilize that time wisely. Allow yourself to be in the moment. This is where life is. It's here. It's in the present. So give that to yourself as a gift. I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to wrap it up. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, I don't know, subscribe. I don't know what you do with podcasts. Oh, isn't he cute? Perfect for Halloween. Jack-o'-lantern. Protection. So the jack-o'-lantern is giving us light so that we see what's ahead of us and what's around us, so that we get a good idea of our bearings. We started with regret, and then we moved on, and now we're at protection. So we started with regret, and then we're in the moment, we're pausing, and then we have protection also. So Spirit is saying it's okay to stop. You have protection. You are safe. And our safety and our security is very important. It's extremely important in this world right now because things are getting so violent and so crazy. There's so much chaos around us. We need to try and make sure that we don't inhale that chaos and make it part of us. We need to center and find peace within ourselves, because you're not going to find it out there. That's not where your peace is. It's got to be inside first, and then it will reflect out. Okay, so that's a great message for tonight, this All Hallows Eve. Remember to stop and smell the flowers or crunch the leaves, as the case may be, since we're going into, we are now in the fall, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And allow yourself space. Allow yourself space to discover who you truly are. I had to show you how pretty my hat is. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Have a happy Halloween, as well as a happy year, a happy day, a happy evening, a happy decade, a happy century. This is GeralynStJoseph signing off. You can find us on Meetup at Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. Have a wonderful evening.